Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we've got a lot to talk about. Results from multiple tournaments, kicking things off by looking at the results from the Champions League event that took place over in Japan that has the cards legal in it from the Twilight Masquerade expansion. Really exciting stuff. That will be our NAIC format coming up very soon. At that tournament, there was also a bunch of brand new cards revealed. So we'll be breaking down our reactions and thoughts on some of these brand new cards. And there definitely are some very, very intriguing ones. We will have everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, Guess That Flavor Text. Shout outs to everyone who came up to me at Indy this weekend and said, Guess That Flavor Text was their favorite part of the podcast. You are a real one. And then we will break down the results from the Indianapolis Regional Championships and also look ahead to the Stockholm Regional Championships coming up this weekend, which is where Azul will be this weekend. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing? You looking forward to Stockholm this weekend?
Yeah, I am excited to go to Sweden for the first time. Experience that a little bit, going a little bit early, leaving today when people are listening to this, tomorrow for where I currently am when we're recording this. So I'll be there. We don't start play till Saturday. I think we basically already know what we're gonna play for the tournament as well. So like Thursday, Friday, might just do a little sightseeing around Stockholm, whatever there is to see, check it out in general. I'm so excited for that. Did get top 32 at Indianapolis this last weekend, or coming off a top 32 this weekend with in Indianapolis with
Yeah.
Control. Um, Ended up going with Control because Caleb and Grant really wanted to play it. They were definitely it was like a fine play. It's not like a bad play ever, really, to be honest. Wasn't the best play into the tournament meta, I guess the way things kind of shook out because the Chien Pao matchup was definitely a little bit under tested on our side. It's not a terrible matchup or anything like that. I
Mhm.
beat all the Chien Paos I played against, but it's definitely like a different level when you play against kind of some of the higher level Chien Pao players for sure. Um, so there's that. The Dialga matchup is kind of like an auto loss as well for the list that we played, but All Out
Yeah.
Blitzel already cooked up an answer for the matchup. So if you're interested in Control, check out All Out Blitzel's Twitter. We kind of just took their list, made a couple changes to it, and then just kind of went with that. Nothing too crazy different from what All Out Blitzel has been cooking and playing. Wigglytuff, the Cloth, all that kind of stuff. Um, uh, so yeah, go check out their Twitter for all the Control updates. But yeah, I already cooked up an answer for the Dialga matchup with the Ditto that can copy the attack of your basic Pokemon in your discard pile. So you basically use the Ditto to copy Mawile, then Mawile can trap a Metang in the active with a Defiance Vest. So you're only taking 20 damage from the Metang because the Mawile is weak to metal, which means it gets one hit KO'd even if you have the Defiance Vest. Or I guess you do get two hit KO'd, but getting two hit KO'd is too fast. So you need to slow it
And
down
this
a
would be
little
better than
bit.
a second Snorlax because they can boss around Snorlax. They can't boss out of the
Yeah.
Mawile lock.
And you need like a ton of stuff in play to actually play the game. So yeah, that is pretty cute. I mean, the answer is that matchup for sure. The Champion matchup still a little bit tough, but even if you check out All Out Blitzel's list that they played at Indianapolis, I keep almost saying Orlando. I don't know why. They had the Sandshrew in there, which we knew about the Sandshrew. Actually, we didn't really like discuss too much about how effective it would be in the Chien Pao matchup. I didn't like overly push on any of the matchups either. I went into this tournament basically planning to play Control based on what and just kind of go off of what Caleb and Grant wanted to kind of run in the list. So, and they were really confident in the Chien Pao matchup going into the tournament. Less confident leaving the tournament for sure. But
Yeah,
I mean, I
Grant,
didn't
I
really
think
question. I
got
kind of just like showed up and
I
I
think
just showed up and
Grant
played the
got
deck to be honest.
4-0'd by Grant Shen in the
Yeah,
tournament.
Shen was cooking them. Did get the dub over Kieran. Um, but Grant would tell you himself that he got pretty lucky in that
Yeah.
one
He also beat
for
Nick
sure.
Moffat
So yeah,
in
I
top
didn't.
8, but also said he got pretty lucky in that
Yeah,
one too.
I mean, that's kind of like I don't know the Nick Moffat outcome doesn't is not like did it sound that overly like because that's just kind of how the matchup goes. It's not that unrealistic to hit good hits off Misfortune Sisters or Erie. Like I hand locked a couple people for throughout the weekend by going like turn one Erie Luxray, and they were just that was it. It was over. It's not, and it doesn't feel like that ridiculous to win games that way sometimes, in some of the matchups. So that's part of your win percentage for sure. But yeah, deck was cool. Like I said, I
A
didn't
pretty good
really
finish all
have too
around
much
from the
input or
crew
care
as
too much.
well. You got top 32. Ryan Antonucci, who you guys tested with for this event, also got top 32, playing your 60.
Yep.
Caleb Gettimer got top 16, and Grant got top 4. I mean, that's a pretty solid finish from one testing group, if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah, it's not too bad. I think one thing I always like to kind of keep in check when playing these kind of decks is there is just a your opponent's going to misplay a lot more against you. Your opponents are going to misplay a lot more against you when you're bringing a deck like this than if you brought like Charizard or something, right? So
Mhm.
I think the average results from players like from our group playing a deck like this at a tournament will be inflated a little bit. Um, whereas
Compared to how
like this
decks that
still
get
might have not
how
been as good
good
of
the
a
deck should
play.
be in the meta.
Yeah, the deck isn't as good. Like the results are just inflated. The deck's not actually as good as it places on average most of the time because you win a lot of games because your opponent just has no idea what's going on, to be honest. And there is a lot that's going on. And this is not like a common deck that people play, so no one has testing against this deck or understands all like the strategies that their deck needs to apply to actually have a chance in the matchup. So it definitely slightly inflated with decks like this. So I always kind of keep that in check. Like we did have a good result overall, which is great, but yeah, when it's all said and done, the deck is like it's just another solid deck. Nothing broken, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, cool.
But it was
Yeah.
cool to play Control again for sure. It's been a while. Which actually something well, I will say that as well. Like, these kind of it was like even when I was usually when I'm out of top 8 contention, I've said this before, I kind of like, I kind of check out a little bit just because like that's my goal for the tournament. But playing Control is just fun. There's so many cool like lines and ways games can go and stuff like that. It's not like sitting down and playing a couple more games of Charizard, knowing you can't progress in the tournament. Sitting down playing a couple more games of Control is actually pretty enjoyable. So that was something that also came up, or it also was made the experience still like more enjoyable. Is continuing to play more games with this deck for sure. Even when I was out of top 8 contention, still having fun playing Control for sure. My opponents, I don't know, probably less so, but
They probably wish that you were more checked out, in the last couple
yeah,
rounds.
probably a little bit.
It's funny, anytime you play against Azul in a tournament, for any listener hearing this, going into round 14, 15, if you're already out of top 8 contention, you see you're paired against Azul, you just know you're gonna have a much easier time than normal because he's checked out, right?
I am a little bit checked out at that point for sure. Yeah.
Also, I didn't mention it at the start, but no camera this week for Azul because he's, like, traveling and doesn't have a ideal setup and stuff, but, you should be
Yeah,
able to
not
still
not
hear
home
him pretty good.
after.
Should be able to hear him just fine. This is one of the first
Yeah,
images that comes
hopefully.
up if you Google Azul Garcia Griego, by the way. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, I won't be home until after Stockholm. I guess one thing we didn't write down to talk about real fast, but we could just bring it up because I don't know, hold them accountable. But registration for and it's a little bit less impactful. Registration or reserving your slot for the Pokemon Center happened last
Yeah,
week, and it was the kind of a mess again. It wasn't as bad,
I
but
think
it's
it was
like, why
worse.
can't just was it? I don't know if it was worse than registration for NAIC. I don't know if I'd call it
I went
worse.
and tried to sign up for a time
Um,
slot, and it just never worked
yeah, you had to like
until,
sit there
like,
and
the
just
next
wait.
day. I went and tried the next day, and I couldn't get it to work.
Yeah, so like I don't know, it'd just be nice for them to get something right with this stuff. I don't know. It's just that's like come on, just like this is the Pokemon Center like time reservation. Like how are we not getting this right? Like I
It
want to like
shouldn't
give
be
them a
that
break too, but I
difficult.
feel like yeah, I feel like I think it's fair for us to like hold them accountable on this where it's like they can't do any of them right. Literally zero. It's like 0 out of 10 or something at this point. I don't even know. Like it's a really bad track record. It's just like it's just get one on the board. Come on, let's do something with this. Hopefully, going into next season, they pick it up, especially if they're going to be doing their own registration stuff, like we think they might be because they did this for NAIC. But I guess we don't know for sure. But hopefully, it's not more of the same of what we've had to experience so far since they've implemented this process. But yeah, we'll wait and see. It just I don't know. It's just like it's so demoralizing. I don't know. It's kind of like I'm just checked out. It's like I'm no longer in top 8 contention. I'm just like, bro, what is happening? Oh, but you were in India as well, Chip. You didn't play. You were cast in. Oh, actually, you did play a little bit though, didn't you?
I did play a little bit, yeah. On Friday, there was the retro format side event. I talked about it a little bit in the podcast last week. Was very much looking forward to it, and I was having a ton of fun. I started 3-0, was feeling great.
Ooh,
And then in round four, I played against someone playing the same deck as me, LBS. I'll just give light details for anyone who, maybe knows about the format. But basically, I opened up with 6 Pokemon in my opening hand and did nothing for multiple
okay.
turns. And my opponent got a turn 3 Blastoise and Pidgeot EX, or not Pidgeot EX, regular Pidgeot, Blastoise EX, which meant they could do whatever they wanted for the entire game, pretty much. And I just never really stood a chance, to be honest. And then in the fifth and final round, there was like 33 people playing in it, which was super cool to see. Love to see that there was so much love for 2006 because it is such a fun format. But
What's your
normally
top cut?
there with 33 people, there would be 6 rounds, but they were trying to cut it short because of like time constraints and stuff. So there's only 5 rounds. And in the fifth round, I played against a Mutrick player, and I had a really good game with them. It was like super close back and forth, and that's a really fun matchup to play as well, I think. And it came right down to the wire, but ultimately they did get me right at the very end. But I'm not upset about it. It was definitely a good game. So I went 3-2, which was eighth place when it was all said and done, and they cut to a top four. Would have
Oh
been
yeah,
nice to
yeah.
do a little
So top
better, but
four.
Andrew Mahone did get the win with Dragtrode, which is pretty cool, which is a super sick deck.
Isn't it? Did we talk about this last week? Isn't that like the BDIF in that format now,
No,
or no? Or is it a different one?
that's the Dark Tyranitar deck.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
He
Oh yeah,
played
Dragtrode is what?
Rocket Sneasel EX,
Dragonite
yeah.
Electrode. Okay, okay, okay. Man, so
The other
Mahone did
dark
pretty well
deck.
overall at this in Indianapolis then. The
Yeah,
dub in the oh
Indy was
06,
kind to
top
Mahone for
8.
sure.
Yeah. He's so he's so focused in that picture.
Dude, anytime I walk by a lot of games when I'm, casting these tournaments. I always try to walk the aisles between rounds when I'm not working or like when I'm not like on camera casting, like just to try to be up to date with what's happening, who's doing well, who's playing something unique and stuff. And he is definitely of like the notable players who I'm like always looking at, by far the most locked into his game anytime he's playing. Like, I'll walk
He
by
definitely
so
yeah,
many people's
Mahone has
games and
like
they'll be like looking around and stuff like that. Well, a lot of times whenever he's sitting on the end of a table, like he'll have his hand wrapped around the edge of the table as well. Like he is just fully locked in. Like whenever it's not his turn, he's watching what his opponent's doing, like not looking to the side at all,
yeah, he's like
staring at
holding
their
on. I mean, if
board.
the ready for any kind of weird play to jump out like a roller coaster. He's like holding on just in case things get shaken up really bad. And he's like, "Oh my gosh." No, but yeah, I definitely have noticed that too. Mahone is like one of the most. It's so funny because I feel like it's just like it's maybe the reason I noticed it the most is just because it's like such a big feels like such a big shift from just talking to him casually.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
he's very animated and like silly, I guess is maybe a word to put it. Like when you're just talking to Mahone casually, but then when he's in a game of Pokemon, he's like locked. It's
Yeah,
like a big 180. But I've definitely noticed that as well.
yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of
All
fun
right.
playing in the '06 side event. I loved getting to do it and talk to a lot of people. It was actually funny. A lot of people came up and asked me how the '06 side event went during the weekend because I had talked about it on the podcast. So, but yeah, I had a good time doing it. I hope to do more of those retro events. Retro Pokemon's a lot of fun. So there's a lot of great resources out there. Jason Klasinski has a blog detailing a ton of details about all the past Pokemon formats. I really recommend checking it out. Also, Alex Wilson's site, ptcglegends.com, great resource if you're interested in some old school Pokemon. It's a lot of fun. I didn't play back in 2006. Like I started playing in 2015 or something like that, but I have very much enjoyed
Almost 20 years.
learning these old formats. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you just like the game, the old
Mhm.
formats are really always pretty sick. I'm a big fan of playing old formats. I haven't played an old format tournament ever. Definitely something that I would like to play in this one, but I didn't get in until like
I
I
brought a
don't know.
deck
It was
for
like I
you.
got in at like yeah, I got in at like 4 p.m. and the tournament started at 3 p.m. or something. So otherwise, I probably would have played. I don't know that much about the decks and matchups, but it still would have been fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you'd have been fine if you just rolled up with Mutrick, to be honest.
yeah, try
Um,
and make it work.
But yeah, and then the only other thing I guess we can mention real quick is that Twilight Masquerade pre-releases do start this weekend. So next week we'll do our set review for the brand new set. Most likely, we'll talk about all the new cards coming out and kind of give thoughts about where we feel like they could fit in the meta. We do kind of do that a little bit, I guess, already because we've seen like some City League results. We'll have the Champions League we'll talk about this week, but um, yeah, Pokemon was kind enough to send me an ETB and a booster box of the set. Um, so looking forward to checking out the new cards. I'm maybe gonna try to go to a pre-release this weekend. If there's one in my area on Sunday, I'll try to check it out Sunday afternoon, see if I can go. I like playing the pre-release formats generally. Um, it's pretty fun, just like casual way to enjoy the game and get the new cards early and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try to check out a pre-release this weekend. Anyone listening, if you uh, didn't realize, yeah, the pre because the last set didn't come out that long ago, but the pre-releases for Twilight Masquerade
Yeah.
are this coming weekend, so feel free to check it out in your area if you've got any available.
Yeah, it's all happening so man, I mean, that's what just, like we haven't really had this I mean, I don't know, the format didn't really change too much set to set. I mean, it would've been nice like, it's just nice if things were a little bit more balanced, but we've talked about that quite a bit.
Yep,
Yeah, we had the Champions League in Sapporo?
I think so. Sapporo,
Sapporo? Sapporo, yeah. This, weekend I forgot about this one actually happened, there's so many tournaments happening right now. I
and it
forgot that
wasn't
this
that
one is
long ago
actually
they had a
going
Champions
down.
League as well. I feel like their Champions Leagues are usually pretty spread out.
Yeah, they had one not that long ago. So they had one with what is it called? Crimson something? Crimson
Yeah.
something released, and they had one with that with Unfair Stamp and Ursaluna, and now they've gotten the Ogre Pond cards as well as the Dragapult with not Twilight Masquerade, but Mask of Change. That's their set. Mask of Change. Now they got Mask of Change as another Champions League. And all those cards from both those sets will get in Twilight Masquerade here in a couple weeks. But now, when the set initially dropped, Dragapult was dominating, and we
Yeah.
talked about that last week, and I was kinda like, "Ugh, bruh," and it's like, "Alright, we gotta you always gotta give it a little bit of time for things to shake out, right?" We even just saw Dialga win a tournament, right? So things are still shaking out over here in the current format, Temporal Forces format, right? And things did shake out a little bit, it feels like, so far. Things are changing up a little bit with the Twilight Masquerade format over in Japan. Dragon Ball dominated the first couple weeks of City Leagues, but people start to figure out how to beat it. And then we see Miraidon of all decks takes the whole thing down, right? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a shift, a bit of a surprise. I guess it gets a little bit of help from the Tatsugiri, right? Just a nice pivot, something that
Yeah. I think
can
the
help you
biggest
get out of
shift
Ionos at the end of the game.
the biggest shift had to be that Dragapult beats Charizard and Charizard beats Miraidon, but
Sure,
Dragapult's better than Charizard.
sure.
So that opens up it shifts it is going from like a tier S format to a tier S format. It kind of feels like, but it's like okay, if Charizard's just not good anymore, like is that's kind of the question. It's like okay, if the answer to that is just yeah, Charizard's bad, it's like okay, well, what was bad against Charizard that is actually like fine against Dragapult? And I think two of the answers so far that we've seen is Miraidon, which won the whole thing, and Lugia as well, with like
Yeah.
four mist energy, to stop the sniping of the Dragapult. And yeah, I mean this Miraidon list is it's just Miraidon. There's nothing crazy in this at all.
There really isn't. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Um, it's just all about attacking. I mean, there's a lot of energy in here, right? 16 plus 2. I guess it's
Yeah,
kind of a bit of a question of like what does Miraidon even look like in this format really because I feel like a lot of people haven't given it its due diligence or spent time with it. It's been written off pretty much since rotation because it lost so much to rotation and Charizard is so good and it has a bad Charizard matchup, right? So it does make you wonder a
yeah.
little bit like, okay, if we spend some time with Murat on this format, how good could it actually be? And I mean, it's pretty good at just being aggressive. And one of the decks you mentioned as well, Lugia, it's got a pretty good Lugia matchup, that is for sure, right?
Yeah. Yeah, which was like the go-to seems like it was the go-to answer to Dragapult was Lugia. Well, hey, if your deck beats Lugia and or beats Dragapult and the go-to answer to beat Dragapult, that's the better deck.
Yeah.
Then that's Miraidon apparently. Yeah, Miraidon currently, it did pop up at Sao Paulo a little bit. There was a couple that we saw on stream. One was on the winning in on the last round in day one. And there was one at like 4050 in the middle of the day at the Sao Paulo Regional Championships on the stream. So Some people have been trying to put it together yet, but the Charizard matchup, I think there's too much to deal with. But now that Charizard's kind of been checked, Miraidon gets his dub, and then we see Gardevoir actually is for some reason I thought it was what's it called? Not Gardevoir. I thought Lugia got second for some reason. I thought someone told me Lugia got second, but it was Gardevoir that got second, and it does have a new card in it. In the what is this card called again? Monkey Dory.
Monkey Dory, you got it.
Yeah, what is the ability on this thing? Because the ability is the important part. I forget what the abilities called
Yeah,
does.
this card is pretty good, to be honest. I'm gonna pull it up so I can get the exact
Does it
translation
move?
here. But yeah, it
I think it
says
moves
once.
3 damage counters off your side to their side.
Yes, that is exactly what it does. If it has a darkness energy attached, you may move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your
Yeah.
opponent's Pokemon. And this was not the only deck that we saw on the stream that was actually utilizing this. There was a Blissey EX deck that was utilizing it pretty well. There was actually like a funny picture where they had I think like three Monkey Dory in play, which because it's not limited to once per turn. So like, they can move all the damage off their
Yeah.
Blissey. If there's any damage left on it, they can Sharon's Care pick it up, move the energies off of it, right, to the next Blissey. It actually seemed really, really cool. Yeah, so effects like the Monkey Dory that move damage counters from your side to your opponent's side of the field, they haven't existed very frequently in the past in the history of the game. But every time they've come up, they've been pretty decent in some capacity. There was uh, the original Banette EX did this, and that deck won Worlds. I'll
What
pull
deck
that
was
card up.
oh, is this like an old one? I don't even know
Yeah,
what
it was
this
like
is.
2009, 7, 2007 maybe? Shadow
Oh,
Chant
yeah, I
Banette,
remember this card, yeah.
Shady Move a damage
The
counter.
Shady Move.
The Shady Move. This card actually got reprinted as well as the Banette GX, which was much less good, but this actually saw a little bit of play as well. There was that one Worlds where it did okay. There was a couple people that in 2018 had some top 32 finishes with it. Um,
Yeah, quite a few players were like, "I don't wanna win worlds, but Banette's cool," so they're, "Alright, locked it in."
and then there was the
Favorite card I mean, wait,
Cresselia
sometimes you
level
have to play with your favorite
X.
Pokemon.
There's the Cresselia level X, which this is another one that like in 2009 I think saw like a tiny bit of play. It wasn't amazing, but it does, something similar.
Yeah,
Pretty these cards have always like created cool options, right? So I'm excited to see what people
definitely,
can do with
definitely.
Monkey Dory.
The Cresselia is still really weird to me in here. No one plays Cresselia and Guardian right now because healing your Pokemon is really bad. Um,
That's true.
but for some reason it's in this build. I don't know why. I guess you can still build up damage in play. You just have to be careful, right? Um, where your energy ends up going to build up the damage and so on. But yeah, Guardy's still doing well. It's cool. And he's playing the new ace spec as well. So there's no they're choosing I assume they're choosing to go first now. They're not playing TM Evo. Instead they're playing the hyper aroma. Search your deck for 3 stage 1 Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. No cape then though. That does lead to no cape. But the
That's
Monkey
true.
Dory, I guess, is kind of your makes up for your damage, right? That's the idea is Monkey Dory. You build up some damage, like you send up Guardy EX, throw some energy on it, retreat it, then Monkey Door moves that damage to your opponent's active, and then you just hit hard with a Drifloon, and that makes up for the lack of the luxurious cape or the hero's cape, which is neither of those are in here, right? There's no luxurious either, I don't think.
Yeah,
So interesting, but it's cool to see Guardy still out here.
it's definitely pretty cool too because like Guardy is a deck that can utilize this really well because they don't have to attach their energy to attack as their attachment for turn, right? So it can afford to
Yeah,
have the darkness energy be attachment for turn and then get the energies in play with Psychic Embrace. But
yeah,
Dragapult
yeah.
did still
Oh,
do
wait, how
pretty
many
good.
Irida were in there? I just saw that. How many Irida were in there?
Oh, 4.
My goodness, what?
That's interesting. I didn't
That's
notice that
interesting.
either.
Is it what? It, is Is Arvin still just not better? Am I missing something here?
Is this
How
a
do we find a Bravery
mistake?
Charms? Is that supposed to be for Arvin? That's gotta be for Arvin, right?
I would think so.
But I feel like if you're I thought it was like for Iona for research or something. But then you can't find the evolution card anyways. But then why is there still not this list feels just off to me. Something just feels off. Because why would you not play a Team Evo if you were playing for Arvin? But why would you play for Irida when Arvin exists and you need to find Bravery Charm? It does find Greninja, which I guess is kinda cool. At first, I thought it was, like, 1, and I was like, "Wait, how many Irida was that, though?" And there's no Arvins, but there's 4? Yeah, I don't know, that doesn't feel right, but so that's interesting. But I'd be very curious to know if that's actually correct or not. Um, yeah, I don't know. That feels off to me.
Let me see if I can go just peep the. It's probably gonna take me too long to go like look at the live stream and figure it out, but yeah,
Oh, true, I guess that is possible.
that is
4
definitely funky.
Iridas. Definitely
Why are there
seems
4
wild.
Iridas?
I mean,
Um,
it finds Greninja. That's actually another thing I was gonna mention. Greninja was also in the Miraidon deck. I don't know if, I don't think we pointed that out, but that was interesting as well. We haven't seen people have talked about it, some people have done it. Now that you don't have Flaffy on your bench, hey, you got a little bit of extra bench space to work with. Draw power is never bad, right?
yeah, I guess it makes sense. I mean, what other Radiant Pokemon would you wanna play? Serena, maybe? Probably not though, right?
Yeah, I don't even think like against Dragapult, they do spread 60, but I don't think you care about healing that off.
Yeah, it
You're probably
doesn't
fine with just
add
letting it
to
go.
any numbers. But speaking of
Yeah,
Dragapult,
Dragapult.
it did still do
Yeah,
decently, right? Got a top 4, top 8, a few top 8s here, so it still had solid representation at the tournament. I did wanna say one thing as well. I kind of I was talking with someone and they pointed this out to me, when I was talking about how Dragapult was, like, dominating city leagues, and I was asking them what they thought about it, like, moving forward into the new format, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't really put the most stock in the city league results, like, it's, like, cool to see what does well in them, but, like, I don't put the most stock in that." Because I mean, they're just basically league cups, right? And it's like you wouldn't put the biggest stock
yeah.
in the meta on like what's winning the league cups all over the place, right?
Yeah, and that's what I've said before too when people, like, look at CD but it like, for,
It's a
like,
good
us in
frame of
America, it's
reference, but
still
I don't think it's like worth being overreacting towards, maybe.
yeah, I still feel just, like, kind of like, uh even though, like, everything in the game is becoming more universal, the Japan format and Japan results and stuff is still so foreign that people are, like, still excited about the novelty kind of just having this much information about Japan, you know? So I
Yeah.
think it is held up a little bit higher than it probably should be. And of course, the Champion League's results, even then, I don't like putting as much weight in Champions League results just because I think Best of 1 is a lot more fluky, so and I think we've seen some suspect decks go really, really far, and I think that is part of the product of or it's a cause of the product of best of one. So, but yeah, I mean, when we see, um, I don't know this much, like how many Dragon Balls are in top 16 here? I think this kind of
It's
proves, and
just
I
3.
think yeah. Oh, okay, maybe not as much. There's more Lugias actually than Dragon
Yeah.
Balls. I thought there was a couple more at the bottom there. But yeah, I think Dragon Ball is definitely going to be good moving forward. And I think this is like it's really cool to see the meta already shift so quickly over there in Japan, where it's like Dragon Ball's dominating these city leagues, and then we get to the major, and it's like people have come up with the answers, and it's really cool. It feels like it's been a while since we've seen a meta feel. I don't even know how to explain it. Like this is like I feel like in the past, meta shifted and flowed like this a lot more often. So it's cool to see this happening more aggressively with this new set coming out. It just feels like the game's just continues to be in a really good spot. I think the
Yeah, so
creators
2
are
of the
doing really
lists
well,
here
which is
in the
actually
top
something.
16 were, kinda more similar to what we had seen from the City League results. A 2/2 Zatu in there for energy acceleration,
Yeah,
very thick Dragapult line, obviously, right? But then one of them is, pretty interesting with a Lost Zone engine. I think there was one we looked at last week that had the Lost Zone engine in it, from a City League
yeah,
victory, but,
hmm
yeah, there's a pretty interesting way to play it as well. I mean, you do get to play Radiant Charizard, which is pretty cool.
I mean, the other one can play it as well, right? It doesn't stop in
Yeah, but all the other ones wanna
yeah,
play
as
Radiant
Alakazam,
Alakazam,
right?
it seems like.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing with that one is just like, do you just lose to the mirror because you have a bunch of like small HP Pokemon on your bench? But maybe because you have Sableye, you can go more and Crams, you can more aggressively chase down. There's Natus. I don't know. I haven't played it all yet, but it feels like the Lawsome build would have a disadvantage to the non-Lawsome build.
Sure.
I don't know.
There were quite a few of the Lugias in the top 16, and Lugia gets a pretty big buff this set. The Blood Moon Ursaluna, the
Yeah,
Carmine, the Legacy Energy, all those cards are pretty
just a
strong
lot.
in this deck.
Yeah, being able to attack with Luminion and put it back in your deck is, like, such a big deal that you can do that again now. I feel like we'll see how big of a difference it makes moving forward. Because if you are committing the energy to Luminion, that means they can go chase your Archeops, chase your Chinchino instead of, um, or that makes that play more effective because you have less energy built up in play because you put energy on your Luminion to put it back in the deck. So maybe that's not as good of a play as it seems, but still being able to reduce the possibility of a prize card from your opponent is gonna be always really good, right? So and the hands, you get hands now, which
Yeah,
is I
huge.
mean, you can't go wrong with some hands action.
It's pretty interesting everyone's having to play, like, a split of the Minchinos now because the
Yeah.
60 HP one just gets KO'd to Dragapult, that's kinda sad.
That's weird because you do have the 4 mist. I guess, like, maybe you're really scared of, like, Dragon Ball going first and just, like, turn 2,
Well, you probably
sniping a
also
rat, but
sometimes have
that's
to
a
commit your
possibility.
energies from Archeops to your attackers, right? Like, you probably don't always
True.
have the luxury
Yeah.
of throwing one because, like, even if you wanna put 1 mist energy on a benched Pokemon, you either have to have it in hand or you have to commit one of your 2 Archeops to it, so that's 2 less energy you get to use as an attacking option, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is fair, that is fair. Um,
We don't have a
what was
lot of
that,
these other
6th place
lists.
Max?
Yep,
Hey, they're those where are the things? Where are the things? There are 4 of them. I said there before in there. The 4
you were right.
Fable Flute. Reveal the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck and put any number of basic Pokemon you find there onto your opponent's bench. Your opponent shuffles their other cards back into the deck. Man, this is one of those cards where I've been praising the creators of the game a lot in the last couple sets 'cause I'm like, "Oh, the game feels good, it's moving forward." But was this necessary? I don't think this was necessary. I don't know, but this is the one that feels a little bit bad, to be honest.
Soma was the person one of the first people at OCIC in 2020 that introduced the world to the Chinchino Mill deck.
Chinchino Mill. You're talking about
Oh, Mag Cargo. Wait, this is not. Yeah, this is what. Did people not play this deck with Chinchino? Am I tripping? Am I just misremembering?
no, you're thinking about the Bellable Bryson Man Mill deck, right?
That's this. Yeah, that's what I'm showing here.
Well, this is a Sleep Block build with the Mareep.
Oh,
This is a
okay. There
different
was just different
deck.
builds of it. Oh yeah, see Chinchino.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is a
Chinchino Mill.
different
This
build.
is what I was thinking of.
There. Oh, yeah,
Okay,
with Gino, yeah. Make do.
got to get
Make
through the
dope.
deck.
3 Zacians. That's so wild looking back on that. There was 3 Zacians in this deck
That is pretty crazy. Pretty
for the draw
unnecessary,
power.
right? Now we're playing one
Yeah,
Rotom index.
I don't even know. I guess it got KO'd and then you put it back down and then the other one wasn't getting KO'd then or something? I don't even remember, to be honest.
You needed
3
to.
though, it's kinda we have 4 quick ball. I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess we can't interact with our prize cards is
Dude,
probably a
look at how
big
much
thing. That was
ADP was
probably
at this tournament. Holy cow.
imagine how much more there would have been moving forward. Like, I think it
I
would've just got
know.
more and more and more.
What did you play at this event?
Disgusting. Malamar.
Oh, well, you didn't make day 2.
Malamar. No, the list was under refined, but I think Malamar was a really good play. Dan lost the winning into Nico, which the Mewtwo matchup was pretty good, but did not have a good I mean, sometimes Malamar does draw poorly. It does have its brick moments, but, yeah, for this term, I actually think we had a pretty good read with the Malamar play. I guess we weren't beating but yeah, the Fable Flute. Oh, man.
Also had the
Yeah,
handy circulator
right.
in here. The Pokemon it's a Pokemon tool
Gotta
card.
have
If the
that.
Pokemon this card is attached to is your active Pokemon and is damaged by an opponent's attack, even if it's knocked out, move an energy attached to the attacking Pokemon to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon.
I wonder what matchup that's for. It's gotta be, like, a specific matchup where they're not KOing, like it could even be Rotom, right? You could have Rotom and you're active with it, and they don't get the KO, so you just keep moving the energy off it.
Is it good
But
against Dragapult?
uh,
Stack all their lock their energies on Zatus and
but
Rotom
they
or
do 200 damage.
yeah,
Maybe
I
you put it
guess
on Mimikyu, and Mimikyu moves it off. Is it a Mimikyu strategy, maybe? Could see that.
maybe could
I could see
be
that. Yeah, a
Miraidon,
couple more
Geodude.
Lugias, couple Miraidons, see, there was 3 Miraidons in top 16, I didn't even realize that. A couple Lugias, couple Miraidons, our Ancient Box. Yeah, man, I'm really excited for this upcoming format. At first, I was kinda down a little bit down on it because I saw how good Dragon Ball was, but there's answers. The answers are out there. Just need a little bit of time for people to figure out what seems best or kinda develop the answers a little bit, and Miraidon's back out of nowhere, which is great to see. You love to see man, it's just that's like such the beautiful things about like card games like this is we see Murata was really good, then it became pretty meh. It's really bad right now, but we see just the format changes, and it's like, "Oh, my really bad matchup is no longer 25% of the meta. I'm back," you know? So, yeah, excited.
As is tradition at these Champion League tournaments, they did reveal a ton of new cards pretty consistently, what they do, right?
Yep.
And these seem pretty cool. So they released EXs for the Loyal 3. I don't know if you know that that's what these 3 Pokemon are referred to
I've
as.
been calling them the Loyal 3 chip.
You didn't know that.
Also,
Anyway,
where's the Pheasantipity in the Guardia deck? People have been hyping that up, but I don't see that.
what does it do
We didn't see that
again?
in the Guardia, I guess. It's for if you have a dark energy on it, anytime you take damage, flip a coin. If heads, you don't take any damage, and then it's 30 damage plus 30 more damage for each energy on it. But it caps out. It only has like 110 HP, so it caps out pretty quickly. It's
Sure.
not hitting that hard.
So
I
it's
just put a
probably just
bravery
not
charm
that
on it,
good
I
then.
guess. I guess, yeah.
But yeah, we've got the Loyal 3 as EX Pokemon. We're getting them in Twilight Masquerade as Hollows, and they all have kind of cool things going on. Then we've got them all as EXs coming out. And then we also have the Petrarunt EX. We've got a tool card, new supporter, new Pokemon. There's a lot of really cool things. Let's start by looking at the Okidogi EX with 250 HP. It is a dark type basic Pokemon, weak to fighting, 3 retreats. And it's got the first attack for 1 colorless energy. Attach up to 2 basic darkness energies from your deck to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. If you attached any energy in this way, this Pokemon is now poisoned. And then Crazy Chain for dark, colorless, 130 plus. If this Pokemon is poisoned, this attack does 130 more damage. That's a
So we're
lot of
hitting,
damage.
yeah, 260. And also you probably want to be able to more aggressively poison yourself. So Brute Bonnet comes to mind.
Yep.
Then you poison your opponent as well, right? So you combo that with the Stadium, Perilous Jungle plus Radiant Sneasler. We're looking at like 310 damage, right?
Yep, and then
Get
you
a
get, this
choice
new
belt
tool in
involved if you
here.
want.
If the Pokemon this card is attached to is poisoned, its attacks deal 40 more
Oh, this is
damage
the
to
one,
your
yeah.
opponent's active Pokemon.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Your one hit KO and stuff. You only have 250 HP though. For
And it's
attaching
gonna
that
be
tool, we
even
can't
less
attach
because
Bravery
you're
Charm.
be taking damage from
Yeah.
Perilous Jungle and Poison. So it's effectively gonna be
Oh no,
220,
Perilous
right?
Jungle says doesn't Perilous Jungle say dark Pokemon don't get extra
Oh,
damage?
you are right, you are right. Yep, you were right.
Nope. Pretty good. Yeah. I don't yeah, oh, so this card was made for these the whole time. They're sneaky. Ooh, they're sneaky. It's set early, but man, all right. I see how it is.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, I
Dark
mean you hit
Patch still in
hard,
the
but when
format. That first attack is honestly pretty good, right? You just go second, bloop, throw a bunch of stuff on that guy. There's not a lot of stuff that's necessarily gonna punish that right away.
that's true, but it is a 2 prize beat stick, which means it's bad. That's right, it's just Raging
What?
Bolt 2.0,
Dude,
back to
it's
the
a little
binder.
different here because it's a
Although,
basic Pokemon that KOs the big guys. It's a decent amount
yeah,
of work to get there
Roaring Moon also does that, and it's in my binder right now. I will say there
because
was a
you've
couple
got it
Raging Bolt that
packed
made
and ready
day 2
to
at
go for
Indy.
Stockholm. That's why it's in your binder.
Giving a shout out to the Raging Bolts that made 2. I played against, Adam Reinhardt, playing the Raging Bolt. I had a pretty cool list. I hadn't seen it been played like that yet, I don't think. So there's a couple in day 2 of Indy, which was cool to see. Um,
Raging Bulk,
but yeah,
baby.
I don't think the Dogi is enough by itself, but let's take a look at the other Loyal 3 cards because they actually add some interesting options as well.
Yeah, for sure. We've got Pheasantipity EX, a 210 HP basic dark type Pokemon, weak to fighting, 1 retreat. And it's got the ability Table Turner. Once during your turn, if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you may draw 3 cards. You may not use more than 1 Table Turner ability each turn. And then it has the attack Cruel Arrow, 100 damage to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon.
For 3 colorless energy. So it's what is it? Oricorio EX? Was that the
Hmm.
Pokemon that had this exact same ability, right? And that card was decent. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a good ability. It doesn't only work with other Loyal 3 Pokemon, right? It works with anything. So Pokemon gets knocked out, draw 3 cards. It's something that can stay on your bench through multiple KOs. Um, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a solid ability, and it'll see play in some deck at some point for sure.
Yeah, the place that Oricorio was the best was in a single prize deck, right? So I feel like
Yeah,
that's where this is gonna be most useful is in some single prize attacking deck. Maybe it's like Roaring
most
Moon, maybe
likely,
it's
yeah.
like Ancient Box or something, slap this guy on the bench, drawn 3.
You really don't wanna end up with a 2 prizer on your bench, but
I
in
know,
certain
yeah.
situations, it wasn't bad. That's where Oricorio fit as well, right? Like, it was just like, you just, like as soon as you hit that tempo where you're ahead as a 1 prize deck, you're like, "As long as I just keep attacking, even if there's a 2 prizer in play, I win." And
Yeah,
that's where Oricorio kind of found its niche for
helps
sure,
you
and
play
I think
around
yeah, I
like
think you're right. I
Iono
think
and stuff.
the Pheasantipity will find a similar spot, I think, for sure.
We've got a Monkey Dory EX, 210 HP Dark type, weak to fighting one retreat. Its ability, if this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack while you have a Pecharunt EX in play, your opponent takes one less prize card. And its attack, Dirty Headbutt 190, Dark colorless. This Pokemon can't use Dirty Headbutt during your next turn.
So that's a pretty good ability, obviously, but you do have to have another 2 prize Pokemon in play that we'll take a look at in a second. Also, the energy requirements for all these attacks is really high. I feel like we might get some other form of dark energy acceleration in the set.
You don't think
Because
Dark
even
Patch
with
is
Dark
enough?
Patch no. For 2 dark and a colorless for multiple attackers in a row? No shot. We need Moltres Energy Switchback to supply these attacks, but we don't have that, so I think they're gonna give us something, which makes sense for the other Loyal 3 cards as well,
Yeah,
right?
where
If
you
you
just
think
get
about it.
Darkrai,
Um
V-Star in the mix. You can get him back with the V-Star power.
I mean, this deck I mean, if they don't give it to us, this is definitely just a bad this is just bad these are bad cards. Like, these are just more 2 prize beat stick
You're sleeping
goons
on the
that,
Dogie,
are
my
not good.
guy.
No, I'm not. The doggy needs to stay slept on. Hey, I was right about Raging Bolt, right? I'm also right about Okidogi.
You were wrong
Unless they
about
give us something else,
ADP. You were
more
wrong about
energy.
Sableye.
Yeah, but they're not fitting the same criteria.
Mhm.
I got a checklist now, and this they're checking all the boxes. Until we get some more dark energy acceleration, they've checked all the boxes for sure.
And then we've got Pecharunt
What is this runt?
EX. Huh?
Is this not? It's not part of the loyal three, but how does it fit alongside them?
It
Because it
is
combos with
it's
the
the mythical Pokemon from this generation. Think along the lines of like
uh,
Mew, Marshadow,
Jirachi.
Jirachi, yeah. Um,
Okay,
and it is like
but why?
the I don't remember the exact lore. I did play through the DLC. It was kind of ridiculous. If you played the DLC, you know. But, it, like, creates these mochi, poison binding mochis that, like, consume
Of course.
the Pokemon that or the people in Pokemon that, it's like got a mind control element to it, pretty much.
Oh, so it's kind of an evil
Yeah, he's
runt.
a evil little guy for sure. And yeah,
All
Pecharunt
right.
EX here. It's 190 HP, basic dark type Pokemon, weak to fighting, one retreat, chains of control for the ability. Once during your turn, you may switch one of your benched darkness Pokemon, excluding Pecharunt EX, with your active. Your new active is now poisoned. You can't use more than one chains of control ability per turn. And then its second attack, dark, for 60 times each prize card your opponent has taken.
Oh, I didn't realize it poisoned it. I missed that part of the ability. That actually makes things a little bit more interesting for the Okidogi because,
You don't even
man, see,
need the
that
brute
makes things
bonnet. It's
weird.
a lot less to set up.
Yeah, but then you're only doing 300. You're capping at 300 then with the mochi plus the 260, right?
Yeah, because 'cause you're not poisoning
Um,
your opponent. But then you
but
don't have to play
you're
brute
so much more
bonnet and the
potent.
tool and the Sneasler and the
Yeah,
stadium,
and you
right?
could
So
just
it like
play that supporter card that says you do plus 30 damage. Maybe that gets you to 330. That could be the thing, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then the attack is decent as well for the end of the game, right? Two darks, 60 for each prize card your opponent's taken. Hitting for what, 360 if they drawn 5? That's not bad. Um, or wait, no, 300 if they drawn 5. Math checks out.
Yes.
It's not plus.
300.
60 times. So, it's alright. I guess you could but you combo that with the mochi, then we're looking at what, 340. So we can make that work. Yeah,
Yeah, and
you
I guess
combo that
you
with the mochi. Like
can oh, no, you can't
you set
use
up
this
2 of
ability
them.
to switch itself active, so you can't poison yourself.
Oh, man. Ugh, alright. Makes it a little bit awkward, I guess the attack's not as good then. It's not as good. You can still hit for 300 though. If they go to one prize card, though, that's the problem. You have a lot of two prizers in play theoretically with this deck, right? So
Yeah.
it might be hard to get your opponent on the odd prize cards. Unless you get like you attack with the monkey dory at some point, put them on odd, kind of work it from there, I guess. But once again, to like go from attacker to attacker with this deck, there definitely needs to be some other form of energy acceleration. Because I don't think you're gonna the dark patch just isn't gonna cut it. I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely trying to make some like loyal 3 plus Pecharunt deck be a thing, right? Like they all very obviously work in
Yeah,
tandem or could work in tandem, right?
dark Pokemon two prizer deck
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
this is like a kid's first deck that they bought like one got one booster box for their birthday, show up to Pokemon
They put
League.
the whole squad together.
Yeah, yeah, pretty sick, honestly. And then yeah, we read the Binding Mochi. Obviously works with these guys that we just mentioned. But honestly, I think there could be potential outside of this, like
Yeah.
friggin' Cloth and Hisuian Electrode. Like those are
Ooh,
still
okay.
cards, right? I wonder if this helps any of the
Cloth
numbers for
swinging.
those things.
I know, James, has been cooking with some cloth recently. James, let us know if you're listening to this. Does the binding mochi make a difference? Do we need that plus 40 damage?
That's what we needed
Is
right
that gonna be
there.
is that the missing piece? The missing piece for cloth.
And then two more cards that kind of work in tandem here. We've got the Chorus's Obsession. Search your deck for one stadium and one energy, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. I do have to say, it is cool to see cards like this are being made. Um, where for so long,
Like slower.
yeah, when a card like this, if a card like this came out in the middle of the like Sword and Shield era, it would have just been completely disregarded because it's like, why would you ever play this over Professor's Research, right? Or if this came out in X and Y, it's like, why would you ever play this over Professor Sycamore, right? But
Yeah.
now the game, we were talking about this on the broadcast a little bit. Like Research, obviously still a legal card. I mean, Hedrick played 4 of them in his deck, but for
A
Arvin
lot of
and
decks
like these
don't.
setup bit focused cards are there's room for them to be more of a thing. So I feel like there will
Yeah.
be a place for Chorus's Obsession somewhere, right?
Stadiums are just so bad. This one's pretty rough to be honest, but it
Well, it
maybe it's like a
depends.
1 over 2 of win a Luminion build. So you can like Luminion for Colress and get your stadium and your energy. But yeah, stadiums are just so bad right now. It's like the big thing.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like this is the type of thing like it could be good in a future format where like there's some better reason. Like, if there was a in Path to the Peak exists, right? It's another out the path turn one. Or like if your deck is hurt by
Yeah.
path, you can go find it, right? So
Yeah. Definitely something like that. But yeah, it's a pretty mid card, but I guess it's a mid card that gets bodied by the next card.
and that is the Kyurem here. Basic dragon type Pokemon, 130 HP, non-EX or anything like that. No weakness, no resistance to retreat cost. It's got the ability Anti-Plasma. If your opponent has any card with Colress in its name in their discard pile, this Pokemon's Tri-Frost attack can be used for one colorless energy. And its Tri-Frost attack for 2 water, 2 metal, and 1 colorless says discard all energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. So,
Yeah, so this
obviously,
is
we just
very
read Colress's
obviously
Obsession, but there's another card with
this is
Colress in
for a
its name
different
in the
colorist.
format.
Yes, this is for Colch's experiment in wait, is that what it's called? That's what it's called, right? Yeah, in
Yeah.
Lost Zone decks. Um, and the only thing I mean, it's obviously like supposed to be like an aggressive option against Lost Zone decks, and we've seen stuff like this in the past. And I think the only real true like offender has always ever been Promo Giratina, to be honest. Because even when you look at Drapion and Spiritomb and how good they were against Mew VMAX, and you just see how good this could possibly be against Lost Zone decks. When you look back at Spiritomb and Drapion, and maybe even Path to the Peak to some extent, um, I mean, do we really know if they wanted to like kind of kill off Mew? Maybe they were just trying to keep Mew in check, but still have it be a good deck. And when we look at that, and then we think about this Kyurem, I don't know. I want to give I want to give more so instead of being like, oh, they just thought Mew was too good, so they had to print a counter to it. but I feel like they haven't really done that at all that much besides, like, the stuff that kind of is good against Mew, but we even see with Mew gone now, people are still playing Spiritomb. I actually, instead of looking at as, like, they're playing as just, oh, they just the way Pokemon works, and I see people kind of summarize Pokemon like this sometimes. It's like, "Oh, when a deck's too good, they just print a counter to it in a couple sets." It's like, I don't actually know if that's true. Maybe they just knew Mew would be too good if they didn't have some kind of checks and balances, but they weren't trying to kill Mew off. They were just trying to be like, we want it to be a good deck, not a broken deck. So I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt to the creators because I feel like they've been doing such a good job lately, and the future looks so bright. Like I think this is all intentional, and they're not trying to just like print cards that kill decks. They're just trying to be like, without these checks and balances, the decks would be too good, and then that's when the game is unfun. So we print the Spiritomb, we print the Drapion, we print the Kyurem, and now the Mew deck is still good, but it's not broken. The Kyurem deck or the Lost Zone decks are still good, but they're not broken. And maybe they just know that Lost Zone decks would be unbalanced without Kyurem existing as like a check and a balance in the format. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're not trying to kill Lost Zone decks, but Lost Zone decks would be too good in the format that's coming up if this card didn't exist, and now it will create a more interactive format where Lost Zone decks are good, but do you play the Kyurem? Do you play the Kyurem with the canceling clone so you can get around Manaphy, and all that kind of stuff? So I definitely want to see how it plays out, but they don't really. When people bring up the idea of in Pokemon broken deck, counter to broken deck a set or two from now, that's not really true to be honest. If you just like, look at how the metas actually play out.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest,
And
like,
Rand.
how hard does this even really counter Lost Box as well? Because they just can put Manaphy in play.
Yeah, so you have to play canceling clone, you have to find the combo, like and it's
Yeah,
obviously good against it, right? And
yeah.
then I did see one person post, it's like, now as Lost Zone, you have to bench Manaphy at the beginning of every game. And they were kind of talking about that as kind of like a point against uh closed deck lists more so than anything. But I feel like that's one of like the interesting things about closed deck lists is knowing when to make that call to get that advantage, or to just, not play a card that's probably gonna be dead because you go up against a Lost on deck and everyone's just benching, slapping down Manaphy turn one. So, um, yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays out, and so far, like I was saying, it feels like the designers, the creators of the games are just, like, doing a really good job, and it's like it's this it feels like these kind of cards, even though people kind of maybe meme about it a little bit or perceive it that way. I don't think these cards are actually meant to kill off archetypes. It's just meant as an option to give yourself an advantage against certain archetypes more so than anything.
Then we do see a new stadium card and a new A-Spec card. Our first A-Spec stadium, which is neutral center. Pokemon that don't have a rule box don't take any damage from attacks from their opponent's Pokemon EX and Pokemon V. If this card is in your discard pile, it can't be put into your hand or put back into your deck.
Yeah, so they really don't want you to like Silene chain this card, or was Roseanne's backup get backup stadium? It
Yeah,
does, right?
yeah, yeah.
So you get Roseanne's backup for this thing as well. I mean, speaking of how I just said stadiums are bad. This is a really good stadium, but it is an ace back. Ooh, I don't know. You could maybe do some tricky stuff in the late game, right? You slap this down plus Iono, and then maybe even if your opponent plays vacuum or plays their own stadiums, they can't find the answer to this. You can buy like a turn or two of your opponent not being able to draw prize cards, and that can get you back into the game. Very similar to kind of what is called Black Market, which was also
Yep.
is that Prism Star
A
card? I forget what they were
Prism
called to be
Star. If it
honest.
got discarded, it got sent to the Lost Zone.
Yeah, that's right. The Prism Stars did go to the Lost Zone, but yeah, cool, powerful card. I really like what they're doing with ace specs, to be honest, so far. They're all just cool, powerful cards.
Yeah, definitely.
Interested to see if they print anything specifically, maybe that combos with it as well.
Well, those are the
Because they
brand
still
new
got
cards that were revealed this weekend. Sorry, go ahead.
there's still quite a few cards that come from this. This is like the next set, right? So
Yeah, so this should be like whatever
um
we're gonna have for Worlds, I think, right?
will it? Because we're supposed to get like if we're supposed to have like a weird special set for worlds. Will these be in that?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe not.
Yeah, I feel like this would be the set after Worlds, but I could be wrong. Hopefully, I am wrong. To be honest, I would rather have more new stuff than less new stuff for Worlds. Um, but I feel like that's because it's supposed to be some it's supposed to be some weird special set before Worlds, but I guess these could be in there. We'll see. But these seem like new main set cards. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know exactly where they'll come out. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, those are the new cards. Definitely looking forward to it. Um, and let's move on to everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. But before we do have to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy Podcast. In case you're not aware, Dragon Shield is a company that makes some of the best tabletop gaming products on the market and card gaming products. We, of course, love them for their sleeves. We use them for every tournament that we play in, and we highly recommend you check them out as well. What did you rock this weekend, Azul?
Rock the Auroras. Also going to be bringing some Auroras. Stocked up before I left home. Um, so plenty of Auroras for this weekend and this coming up weekend in Stockholm. Going to be rocking those. Yeah, shout out to Dragon Shield as always for sponsoring the podcast. Check them out. Link will be in the description. If link will be in the description. I was say if you're on YouTube, there's also a description on Spotify as well, where the link
Yep.
will also be. Use our code UEPOD to get yourself 5% off. Directly support us here on the podcast. And up next, we do have everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, which is Guess That Flavor Text. This turn, it's my
This
week
turn.
to pick a
Whoa,
card.
do you
This
whoa,
turn,
whoa,
this week,
whoa,
it's my
whoa.
turn.
This turn it
What?
is my week.
This week,
Right.
it is my turn to pick a card and read the flavor text of it for Chip to try and guess which Pokemon that card belongs to. Um, we do have 3 lifelines. For each lifeline Chip uses, we'll get 1 less point. If Chip doesn't use any lifelines, we'll get 4 points. And then the lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name off the card. Chip, are you ready for this week's flavor text? I believe I'm starting to close the gap a little bit, right? Was it 27 to 20 or 17 to 24? Excuse me.
17 to
17 to
24.
24.
Closing the gap, but you'll never catch up. Go ahead, Azul. Let's hear what you got for me.
Well, it's possible. All right. When it takes a defensive posture with its fists guarding its face, it could withstand a bomb blast.
I mean, my first intuition is definitely some fighting type Pokemon. The bomb's blast is kind of an interesting inclusion here. I mean, I'm thinking like Hitmonchan, maybe Metatite potentially. I really am pretty heavily leaning towards Hitmonchan right now. Just thinking of like the boxer stance, that it takes, like that's protecting its face. Let me hear you one more time read the flavor text.
When it takes a defensive posture with its fists guarding its face,
Yeah.
it could withstand a bomb blast.
Yeah, so what other Pokemon with fists could it be? I mean, maybe Machamp, Machoke, one of those. I'm just really heavily thinking this is Hitmonchan. Let me get some lifeline help here, though. Let's go with what set the card is from. Pretty much always where I start.
It is from. Oh, wait, hold on.
Oh boy.
Give me. All right, hang on. Give me a second
If you're
here.
on PKMing cards, it tells you the set name on the page of the
Yes,
card.
breakthrough. Breakthrough. Breakthrough.
Breakthrough.
I clicked off the page and then I had to make my way back
Breakthrough.
around.
Breakthrough was the very first tournament I went to was the first tournament the first weekend that Breakthrough was legal. So I bought a lot of packs from this set because that's the stage of a Pokemon player I was in. I feel like everyone when they get into the game goes through like that phase where it's like they just buy way too many booster packs. So I opened up a lot of Breakthrough for sure. Um I don't know if there's a Hitmonchan in there though. I can't remember. Uh is there a Machamp? I kind of think there is a Machamp. I can't quite picture it though. Maybe there isn't. Let me go with what stage the card is.
It is a stage 2.
Okay, let's have you go ahead and read an attack name. We'll use them all.
Adamantine Press.
Oh my gosh. I know what this is. I've heard this I feel like I've used this attack before. Adamantine press. Oh, what has this? I feel like I've used this attack, whatever this is. Maybe in a cube or maybe like on PTCGO. Was this a good card? This can't have been a good card. It was a stage 2 at this time frame.
Yeah, stage 2
There was
sucks.
no good stage 2s in this time in the game. You know that's true. uh
I don't remember exactly when this was, but
like Night March, Trevenant. Right after this is when Greninja Break came out. I guess that would be the only stage 2.
that's a stage 2.
That's true. It's a stage 3 actually.
True.
Adamantine press, dude. This is like, is it Machamp? I don't think it's Machamp. There's a Machamp EX in Ancient Origins, so it would be really weird if there was a Machamp right after in the set that came out after. I'm just lost, man. Is it? There's a Tyranitar and Break Point, so that's not it. Or Fate's Collide. Uh, man, I've just got nothing.
All right, Chip, we're gonna need an answer here.
I'm digging deep, digging deep. Fists. I'm gonna just. I mean, I know I've got to say something here. I guess I'll just go with Machamp. I don't think that's right though. Let's go with it.
It's not Machamp, Chip. It's not.
You got any other hints for me?
Um, well, I'll give you the other attack if you want that,
Sure.
and we'll see if you get anything off that. The second attack on the card is Spike Lariat.
Uh,
The Pokemon
wh-
also has spikes.
what type is it? Oh, is it
Or
Aggron?
it's not. It's Chestnut, baby. The
Chestnut.
Chestnut.
Yeah, I've
What a
definitely never
terrible
used that attack.
Pokemon. Yeah, there's a lot of press attacks though out there, I think, for sure. Unless you used it in the pre-release because it was one of the pre-release. It's a promo. I don't know if it's a pre-release promo.
Yeah, it wasn't a
Maybe
pre-release.
that's where you saw it.
Oh, so you were looking at this one, not even the
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
Azul was looking at this card and he was like, what set is this card from?
Well, no, I was like wondering if it's like I was like, is it only a promo? Like,
Well, hold
what do I
on,
say?
hold on.
Promos?
You gave me some false
Huh?
information here.
What do you mean?
The card you were reading was not from Breakthrough. It is an X and Y promo.
Well, no, I switched over to the other artwork once I realized. So
Oh my gosh.
it's like
I
50-50.
don't know. There's some fishy stuff going on here.
I don't think so. I think you're you're reaching here for sure. Not even
I don't
close.
know. Dude, Chestnut is such a goofy looking
Ah,
Pokemon, man. What's going on with this guy's head?
yeah, I don't he's like a turtle. It's like a turtle monkey. Like, what
His
is
head looks
it?
like a big toe
Kinda.
just poking out from the shell. I guess that's what a turtle's head kind of looks like, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. This is like literally the worst one of the worst, like worst starter ever. Like, this might be the worst for sure. The fact that this thing is a
Uh,
starter is
it's tough to.
mind-boggling. I
Oh
don't even
man,
play
I
this.
feel bad to say that because when I played through X and Y, I chose Chespin,
Ooh,
and I will
don't say it.
say,
Ooh,
as it evolved,
Chespin's chill.
yeah, Chespin's cool,
See,
man.
Chespin's
Chespin
chill.
is great. As it
Yeah,
evolved,
yeah,
I
yeah,
kept
yeah.
getting sadder and sadder.
Dude, Quilladin looks like someone in a looks like a person in like a costume.
Quilladin
Like, it looks
looks
like someone's
like a character from Adventure Time.
yeah, yeah, this yeah. It looks like a human though, in like a costume.
Bro, look at the comment. Wait, oh, this has to be
Just
because of a. I
what?
think I used this on Guess That Flavor Text, this exact card, and someone commented on it. This looks just like Azul GG. I must have said it
See,
looked like
maybe that's why I
you.
think it looks like a human. Yeah, I guess maybe it does look a little bit like me. Alright.
Dude, no way. Holy
Um,
cow.
So close out the episode here. A couple events happened. We mentioned them a little bit. But Indianapolis regional championships, and then there was a special event in Buenos Aires. I guess we could start with Indianapolis because we're both there, and I mean, there's some things to talk about here, right? Andrew Hedrick,
Yeah.
third regional dub with Dialga, which is yeah, Dialga coming out of nowhere. And I heard a couple people mention this to me. I think Dialga or Hedrick has been saying Dialga is just like a good deck for a while now. And proving it here with the dub, right?
Yeah, he didn't go to EUIC, he didn't go to Orlando. He had school stuff going on, but he said he'd been playing the deck since before EUIC, thinking it was good.
Hmm. And shows up. First event in the format. Gets the dub. Is it the first event for him in the format? It is then, yeah. And gets the
Yeah, if he
dub.
didn't go to those
So
2.
1 for 1. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's not bad. And, it's definitely a deck that I'm super under practice with. When I did try it out a little bit before this tournament, I think, it did feel decent. Like, I was like, "Hey, this deck's pretty good." You got a lot of really strong matchups, like stuff like Lost Tina, Arctina, are pretty free, for the most part, it feels like. I guess it for Arctina, it kind of has a little bit more on do they play Maximum Belt and go first, but, and then, like, I think you are, like, slightly favored against Chien Pao. Um, or it's close because if Chien Pao goes first, they can snipe your Beldams before you get to use them. But your favorite against Charizard is like my understanding, which is the matchup that I have a question mark about still. But I mean, if that's true, like I don't know, maybe the format's a little bit more undiscovered than we think. It's hard to say that Charizard still isn't the only like S tier or whatever deck, but when you look at the rest of the top eight, besides just Hedrick winning with Dialga, there's four Chi and Pows or five. Is it five? No, it's four.
Yeah, 4
Lucas
Chien
Singh did
Pao.
bubble out. And Lucas Singh was right there at ninth with the same amount of match points as a couple other people in top eight. So that's a lot of Chien Pao.
It is
It's
a
a lot
lot
of
of
Chien
Chien
Pao.
Pao, and a lot less Charizard than I think what we would have expected, even when you go down to, like, the top 32.
Yeah.
Only 3 Charizard EX in top 32, like, that is a far cry from what people would have expected going in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at some of these the names for sure stand out. Like you look at all the names in the uh top 8, I guess, besides Eddie North here, I think is the one name that stands out as probably not a super recognizable name, but you have like Hedrick, three-time regional champion, Grant Shen's been here before, Dean Nazim is a regional champion, Grant Manley's got plenty of top eights, Moffat, plenty of top eights, especially last season. Mahone's been here before, Ian's been here before. So a lot of good players. Really, really strong players, of course. Like I said, Eddie, I feel like is this probably his first top 8. I actually know Eddie because he was a local, um, in Indianapolis area, I think. So I've played against him a couple times actually when I lived in Indiana. Um, Met him a couple times in top cuts of league cups and stuff. So cool to see Eddie getting that first top 8 here at a major. Um, but but yeah, a lot of really strong players choosing not to bring Charizard, right? That's always gonna be a uh, what's it called? Piece of the puzzle for what does well is just like what do the best players choose to play, and a lot of people chose to play decks that do have an advantage to some extent
I mean,
against Charizard, right? A lot of
it
Charizards.
yeah.
Me and my group brought Pitch Control, which has a good Charizard matchup. So
There were
yeah,
definitely plenty of
that's always
good
gonna be fun.
players playing Charizard, though. We shouldn't sell
Yeah, of
that short,
course.
right?
Well, I'm not saying there's none of them, but like when if it's like half the good players are playing Charizard, half the good players are playing decks that beat Charizard,
Mhm.
the the good players that are playing the decks that beat Charizard are gonna rise to the top, right?
Yeah. There's also quite a few other Dialga in day 2. It was actually the
Yeah, they're
8th
not
most
far.
popular deck, but it was, like, just behind the 6th most popular deck, because it was a tie between Lugia and Tina with 14 people playing him in day 2 each, and there's 13 people playing Dialga in day 2. Like, so it was more than just
Yeah.
Hedrick saying, like, "Yeah, this deck is pretty good."
Well, I think, the next 2 highest finishing no, no, no. The next highest finishing, I think, was just kind of, was Michael Davidson, who I think had been talking to Hedrick and stuff and was playing the exact
Yeah,
same
they
60 as Hedrick, I
maybe 60, yeah.
believe. Then under that is Jesse Parker, though, who I don't think, um, talked to Hedrick probably at all before the tournament, but was also playing the Dialga. And, man, there's something that stand out to me in this list here from Jesse. I'm looking at the list. now. The
He
Irida, the
actually played the same 60 as,
Serena.
Drew Kennett.
Oh, okay, yeah, Drew running it back with Drew's been a Dialga believer for a while as well, and I had, top 32 in Orlando, I wanna say for sure. I did make
Yes.
day 2 at UIC, so it's like 3 day 2s in a row for Drew with the Dialga. Um, yeah. This list has a little bit more going on. A little bit more going on for sure.
Yeah, that is
Hedrick's
one
list is
thing
way more
about Hedrick's
straightforward.
list I really like, actually. It's a
Yeah,
very streamlined list, right? There's, like, not a lot
and
of
I think
going on. There's, like, definitely merit to that, right?
yeah, I think that's just how you want it to look to like, when I was testing out the deck before this tournament, like, I would just, like I started cutting everything down to just being as straightforward as possible. It's like, the deck like, the powers this is one of the decks, like, you can compare it to, like, Chien Pao, I guess, a little bit like this, like, the power is there, the issue's the consistency, right? So usually when that is happening, it's like, if you have to tech out the deck to make it beat enough matchups in the current meta, it's probably just not good for to play this deck in the current meta. But when you don't have to tech it out very much and you can just build it as straightforward as possible, that's when it's like the deck is good to play in the meta. Um, so yeah, I really like the take from Hedrick as well with just, straightforward, set up. The deck's powerful enough if we can just set up, the deck will be able to do the rest, right?
Yeah. And it can be worth, like, to have some
Um,
options that, like, cover multiple things, right? Like, something in Jesse's
it's
list,
gotta be
like
like
the Lost Vacuum, right? Like, kind of a tech, but, like, it probably hits a
I
few
don't know,
different
vacuum kinda
things for
sucks.
you, right? Like, Hero's Cape and random things, Ancient Booster
That's gotta be what that's
Capsule.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that is, like, it does that, but it's just also just, like, a dead card. Even in those situations, sometimes it's just a dead card, right?
Sure, sure.
You have to find it to use it, but
That's why you got the
then
Irida.
it's different in decks like well, it's different in decks like Charizard where you have so much access to all these cards when you need them on the specific situations. Like, this deck is y you have so much less access to things when you want it, to getting it when you want it, So, um, I like the more straightforward approach, I think, for sure. Um, and we did see it was the more successful of the builds with, Hedrick winning, of course, and then Davidson being the next highest Dialga finisher, but it was close. It was literally Michael Davidson at 26, Jesse Parker at 27. But is that the consistency difference? That could be it, right? The one place right there.
Definitely
We'll
could be,
see.
definitely could be.
Um, but like you were saying, yeah, lack of Charizard. One of our predictions that we had was how many Charizard would we see in top 32? I predicted like what were our predictions? 9 for me, 8 for you, and it was 3.
Yeah.
Um, it was 3. And I don't know if you look at the rest of like past the very but I guess like there's like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 Shein Pows in the top 16. Oh, that's a lot. That's almost half. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And that's gonna be a lot of the reason that there's so few that's a lot of the reason there's gonna be so few Charizards in top 32, right? Because they're just taking all these losses to the Shein Pows, which is favorable matchup. We did see one Charizard was able to get in there into the top 8 or 2 in the top 16. I guess Michael Bergerac as well there in the top 16, but Ian was able to get a top 8 here, and did choose, I guess, like the one thing to stand out there for Ian's build with the Charizard is did play the maximum belt, which we haven't
Mhm.
seen be successful in a little while in Charizard.
Yeah, he actually said in his interview he chose to play it because he knew none of the other Charizards were gonna be playing it, and he felt like it was a really good option for the mirror match.
Yeah, and then also good against Shampoo. Probably
Yeah.
I think it's close between that and Prime Catcher. Actually, Cape is good against it too.
Yeah,
Maximum
one of the
belt might be
main
the best against
draws of
Shampoo
playing
though.
Cape is the Chien-Pao matchup, is it not?
Um, I mean, it feels like it, but you generally I feel like if you like being having the option to be aggressive is generally having better than having like another passive option, I guess. Um, probably like Charizard is already so passive in that matchup to begin with, where it's like you always almost give Chien-Pao the lead. So being able to like kind of flip the script on him probably makes it the best of the 3A specs to play, I would assume, right? Maybe not.
No, I track with
Um,
that, yeah.
that would be my guess. I've kind of gone back and forth thinking. I haven't like it would be nice to like sit down and play 10 games of Charizard with each A spec against Chien-Pao,
Well, you're doing
but
nothing
that's a
this
lot of
week.
Pokemon. I've been grinding Hearthstone Battlegrounds chip. I'm
Oh my
climbing, making
gosh.
moves.
I'm busy.
I'm busy. This is my vacation. It's my Battlegrounds vacation. before I go to Sweden to
Sure.
lock back in for some pokey action. Um, I guess like the other, I mean, there was Grant in top 8 with the control, of course. But let's talk about. I guess you could talk about the lost boxes. There's not only Dean who got third in the top 4 with a cool lost box build, but there's 2 others in top 16 as well. Leonardo Fernandez and Jackson Ford. I haven't even looked at these yet, so I don't know how different they actually are.
Yeah, Dean's list seems pretty good, honestly. It's only a couple cards different from Nico Galaz's list, which I guess all of these really are pretty similar overall. Um, the
Yeah.
big thing is that Dean did not play the Mew EX that everyone else played.
No Mew, no counter catcher, no pal
Yeah.
pad or things that stand out to me. Artisan over Pokestop. Only
Most
one
people are just playing
vacuum.
Artisan as well, which is pretty interesting.
I feel like Pokestop seems super powerful, especially with 4 Super Odd, but yeah, everyone's been on the another deck that I don't have that much experience with in the current format, to be honest. Yeah, even with 4 Super Odd and 4 Nest Ball, I feel like that it just kind of makes sense to run Pokestop, but I think if you play Pokestop, you also need to include Palpad, so that becomes like another thing you have to play. So yeah, I'm not too sure to be honest. Also, 4 Buddy Poffin actually, I don't think I've seen 4 Buddy Poffin yet, so just trying to find Pokemon to
Yeah,
be
that I
consistent.
mean, the 4 Buddy Poffin almost makes the Artisan feel worse to me, though.
Well, the Artisan is there to find Cram and Sableye, but
Sure.
that's like
You got 4 Nest Ball
honestly,
too.
actually, I kind of agree with you. It does make it feel worse. It looks worse. I was
Yeah.
like, it makes me think maybe Pokestop would be a little bit better. But once again, if you play Pokestop, I feel like you have to play Palpad, right? So
I will say as
it's like
well,
another
I actually
change.
feel like this deck has a pretty good Chien Pao matchup. Now, Dean did lose
Yeah,
in top 4 to Grant Shin, but I didn't watch it at the tournament. I wasn't casting it. I was watching the other top 4 match that was happening out on the floor. But I went back today and watched the top 4 match, and I will say I think Dean definitely could have played quite a bit better in top 4. Definitely had
yeah,
some mistakes in
Dean.
there that led to him, I think, losing the game where, like, honestly, in both of the games, he probably should have just won.
Yeah, Dean definitely did not play great. Not gonna lie, but I know he wants to do better, and he's gonna take that and then push it forward to his next tournament and try and improve on that. I know he's not pleased with his play, and is definitely gonna, you know, hopefully
I wonder how this
be
does
play a
against
little bit better the
Dialga.
next
That
time
would be the
around.
question I would have.
That that's what I was just gonna say as well. I have actually no. I mean, the Hoopa could. I don't. I guess you just go after the little guys, right? With Sableye, Cram, and Greninja to begin with. Like you do the same thing that Chimpao does. Like you go first, turn 2 Ninja, kill the Schmeldums, and then maybe
KO
Sableye
the
gets
what?
involved to trap the Schmeldums, and then you
Yeah,
like
of
get
course,
Sableye involved to trap
naturally.
some Schmeldums later. And then, like, Roaring Moon, you do have ways to one-hit KO Dialgas, right? Roaring Moon, maybe the Hoopa if they put too much energy in play. Hands
Yep.
can get 2 prize cards on a Ninja. So I feel like it's probably a close matchup. Because of course they have Ionos plus the possibility of the Chrono Star, to really get, pulled super far ahead or close out games as well with those kind of plays, but that'd be an interesting one for sure. I think Lost Box is definitely probably a little bit slept on right now. Because I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things where it hasn't had. I don't know. Sometimes some things like need a dub, but it's also one of the harder decks to play in the format as well. So people aren't as likely to want to like pick it up and try it out as well. With that in mind as well, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's good though. I think it's good. And there's a bunch of different ways to play it right now. We talked about the. I mean, this build seems to be like the standard way to play it right now. I guess moving forward, but we talked about like a couple differences between this and like Galaz's list. That
Yeah.
Galaz got second place at Sao Paulo. I scrolled down and now I'm looking at the list here from Leonardo Fernandez, which is actually the same 60 as Jackson Ford. I don't know if they uh
It might be a coincidence.
is it Leandro or Leonardo?
Leandro.
Leandro, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, it actually might just be a coincidence there. And these both lists are very close, I believe, to what Galaz
Yeah, I think
played
so. I
in
think
Sao
Galaz
Paulo.
just
It's like,
had
is it
2
just one
Artisan, no
minus?
Pokestop.
Yeah, is that as I was gonna say, is that the only difference there? Oh, no counter catcher. Galaz did not play the counter catcher. Um,
Counter Catcher does seem really
yeah,
good in this
Lost
deck.
Yeah, Lost Box is still very much kicking, very much alive. I think Charizard's still not respecting it. Like Jirachi, I don't know. We can even look at take a look at the cards here.
A
Jirachi was
lot of the
only in
good players did have
41%
Jirachi
of.
in their lists this weekend.
Yeah, people usually still at least have missed if they don't have Jirachi. It feels like most of the time it's usually one or the other. Um, But yeah, people not like not it's not like everyone's playing Jirachi like they used to in Charizard, right, for Lost Zone decks. So
Yeah.
you're still getting those really the potential for those really strong Sableye turns in the matchup, which is still really, really good for Lost Box. So I don't think anyone's like that worried about Lost Box right now. And I think people are going to become less worried about Lost Tina moving forward with how dominant Chien Pao and Dialga, to be honest. Like, I guess not dominant, but like how successful Dialga was. Dialga and Chien Pao both have pretty
Oh,
good Tina
yeah.
matchups. So I don't think Lost
Dialga
Tina
is
is something to
definitely
be
gonna
scared of.
be something to consider moving forward, right? Like, that it's gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah,
much more
definitely.
widely played now.
Yeah, honestly, I could see it being like the third or fourth most popular deck as soon as probably not as soon as stock, but maybe. That we saw it
Definitely
with
by LA.
Miraidon after LAIC. Yeah, definitely by LL would be like in the top 4 most popular. I wouldn't be surprised though, because really cool deck. Not like the sequencing with Matang is really weird. But once you understand it, it's not that complicated, but it is way different than any other Pokemon deck I've ever played. The sequencing with Matang is actually really interesting. So that's pretty cool. But it's not like too difficult to make you not want to pick it up, but there is some nuance to it for sure.
Definitely.
Um, speaking of the lack of success of Charizard at Indianapolis, unless there's anything else you want to mention about it, there was a special event in Buenos Aires where Charizard did its thing. Um, 3 in the top 4, won the whole tournament. Nothing too shocking, I guess, with that though, to be honest.
Yeah, 4 in the top 8 as well. Yeah, I mean, a lot of Charizard
Yeah.
out here down in Argentina. And Surprise did beat Ancient Box in the finals. Definitely a tough matchup for the Ancient Box, right? But I will say, this player did get through at least one Charizard, right? Because they had to have beaten one in top 4.
Yeah, probably had to beat 1, maybe 2 in Swiss because it's just hard to get through Swiss without hitting one of them. And actually, we can look at the results for this list. They played the exact same 60 in Sao Paulo. Um, so running it back to back here at events, not as good of a placement in Sao Paulo, but did get second here at the special event. And yeah, I don't know. Ancient Box is still like all right. It's all right. Nothing too crazy in this list either. This is pretty standard. This is almost like the exact same city as um
You were
actually what is the difference? Yeah,
the
from
fire
Jake.
energy.
Oh, no fire. Thank
Y-
goodness.
I think that is the only difference. Yeah.
Yeah, no Inferno is not to be feared.
I honestly
But
would
maybe
probably
as soon
play
as it's not to
7
be
Dark,
feared, it's to
1
be feared.
Fighting before I played the second Fighting in this deck. You just
It lets you attack with Great Tusk.
dude,
That's like the
this
only thing.
yeah, sure, sure. But, like, are we gonna
Yeah, okay.
SATA attach? Like,
I mean, if they ain't knocking it out, why not? We're swinging.
we
Let's
usually
get
got a
them.
SATA attached to the thing we're attacking with that turn. Oh,
That's
you
true.
mean
We do be running out of
if
energy
we're
in
just
play
land
sometimes.
collapsing, you mean?
Yeah. If we land collapse and they don't respect it for a turn, we're 160 next turn. We're coming through. Look out. And that was actually like the build that Christian Fontenot and someone else played. It was like a 4 Great Tusk,
Oh,
like
dude,
1 Koraidon build.
I've been playing a list on
Um,
TCG Live that has no Koraidon and just Great Tusk and like 2 double turbo energies as well. You just start this guy, you just start milling. They gotta knock it out, or you can just keep
wait, so
doing that.
you're literally playing you've literally been playing the deck, but now you're disrespecting the double fighting energy? What the heck?
Well, yeah, I'm not attacking. I don't play fighting energy in mine. I just play 2 double turbos.
That sounds worse than 2 fighting energy. What are you doing here? What is
I want
going
a Hex Hurl
on?
on turn 2 as well, buddy,
Oh,
or turn
of
1.
course. Yeah, gotta hit with the Hex Arrow.
Bro,
Turn
that's
1 Hex
broken.
Arrow,
70
turn
70 or
1
70-20.
Land
Knock out some
Collapse.
Comfeys. Come on now.
Okay, alright, I respect it, I respect it. That is true, you get the Hex Hurl on him. Chip leaking the sauce out here? Leak to us first, Chip, what the heck? You gotta leak to the squad first. I
Buddy,
didn't know you
it's
had it
been in the
like that.
Discord for like 3 weeks. So, shows everyone what you check, you know.
Dude, I'm busy grinding Battlegrounds, bro,
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh,
Got my
dude.
priorities straight.
Holy cow, this guy.
But yeah, nothing else too crazy in Buenos Aires. The future hands did kinda squeak into top 8. And I'm not too worried about that. One thing, I guess, another thing to maybe mention, like we see the Guardy here in top 8 here in Buenos Aires. That was a deck that I feel like had been building up hype that didn't really do very well. The highest placing one was 22nd
Yeah.
at Indianapolis. Um, and I mean, it kind of makes sense. I don't think you have your Chi and Pao matchup is tough, and uh, yeah, your Chi and Pao matchup's tough. Maybe that's it's kind of like that. Also, like
Yeah.
Lost Box can be an iffy matchup depending on how fast you get to 7 and 10,
I
and
also
how
don't know
quickly
how
you can
good
get
like
down
your
Mana King
Charizard
and
matchup's not
Jirachi.
that good, I don't think.
It's fine. Um, I think it's like 50-50 probably. Before the tournament, Josh Frink, who's been one of the most successful, if not the most successful Guardy player so far with the top four at Orlando, said that his list 65-35 Charizard. Um,
Yep.
and I know I'm pretty sure Josh was in day two for sure, but
Yeah, but guess what Josh was
not 100% on
playing?
that. Gardevoir? Arctina?
Arctina.
What? Why would you go from a deck that's 65-35 Charizard to a deck that is slightly unfavored to Charizard? That doesn't make any sense.
Well,
What
you
are we
got
doing here?
double
What's
iron
going on?
leaves, double iron leaves.
Yeah, you're still losing. I'm back to Arctina being a fraud deck, by the way. I've gone back and forth on this. Before the format even came out, I was like, "Ooh, Arctina looks sick," and then I was like, "This deck stinks." And now it's kind of come back in around to like, "Ooh, maybe it's pretty good." I'm back on the Arctina is a terrible deck. It's gotten way worse now because the Chien-Pao matchup and the Dialga matchup aren't great. Now it's
Its
definitely just
Dialga
it's
matchup
cooked.
is
It's done.
abysmal. This deck has
It's
no way to
awful.
beat Dialga.
You can't win. You can't win.
It's
So now
like
it's like
so
completely back in the
bad.
binder. Yeah, I was super wishy-washy back and forth on Arctina, but now I'm just 100% on the deck is terrible. Lock it up. Put it away. Worry about it another day.
I just
Not
realized
worth
we
it.
didn't
Not
even
worth it at
talk
all.
about the meta.
Um,
Let me
that's
pull
I
it
mean, I
up.
guess we there's not too much to talk about because we were just kind of right, right?
Yeah, well, Arctina was up there, man. Arctina was the third most popular deck in day two.
Yeah. Oh, in day two. What
Yeah,
about day one though?
Arctina. In day one, it was the fourth
Oh,
most
wait,
popular deck.
it's 7%. That's 7%. That's nothing.
Well,
I
sure.
actually almost perfectly like I'm gonna go ahead and pat myself on the back. I almost
Dude,
perfectly
all you do
predicted
is pat yourself on the
day
back. It is
one.
honestly
I
ridiculous.
was I was the only thing I was off on by was Chien-Pao. I predicted Chien-Pao at 10. It was 12, but I was like Zard 25, Chien-Pao 10, Lost Tina 7, Arc Tina 6 to 7, Ancient Box 5, Lugia 5. I don't know where it goes after that, but I was like almost perfect with my meta prediction. It's not that hard when Zard's taking up 25% of the meta, of course, but it was pretty close. Yeah,
Well, let's
Arctina did show
recap
up decently, but
our predictions here from this past week. We already talked about how we predicted how many Zard would be in the top 32. Azul said 9, I said 8. The answer was 3.
hmm.
Nothing to add. All
Yep.
right. And then our next prediction
I
was
mean,
how many players with 36 match points would miss top 8? I'm going to double check, but I'm
the
pretty
answer is
sure
1.
the answer was 1. You said 0, I said
Yeah,
2, so
Lucas.
we'll split the difference there, yeah.
Whatever that means, sure.
There were some like
Whatever that
natural
means.
ties, I think. There was like some weird stuff that happened in the last round if I'm remembering right. Like
Yeah, there was the potential for there
there's
to be,
potential
like,
for like
3
11.
36 bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a potential for, like, 3 or 4 36 bubbles, which is pretty crazy. Tournaments are getting pretty big, for
Like Reagan
sure.
Retzlaff
But, yeah, it
lost
ended
his
up just
last
1.
round or tied his last round to Frank Diaz.
Yeah, tied.
But if he had won, he would have been at 36.
And then
Um,
John
yeah,
Eng tied, ended up at 35, but
Leandro.
would have been at 37. John or his opponent would have been at 37, and that would have bumped another 36 out of cut.
Yeah, Lucas
So yeah,
Zing
it's
ID'd with Andrew Mahone and then unfortunately missed out.
yeah, and that was like a fair ID. I think I remember looking at the resistances. I think Lucas's ID was okay. You do get like this is it's almost becoming like more important to make sure you're on top of that kind of stuff now these days, though, to be honest, like with your IDs at the end of rounds and stuff. Like I think even potentially like trying to this is something like me and my group should probably do is like put together like the average uh opponent's win percentages and just trying to figure out like what actually seems reasonably safe from like round to round and like the margin of
Lucas
error. and stuff like that.
At the end of round 14, Lucas's was the worst of all the 35s. So
Oh, alright, he probably shouldn't have that. It's so hard to calculate that in the moment and, like, understand but yeah, if yours is the worst, you probably shouldn't.
well, he and
Yeah.
Mahone were tied for the worst, I guess, but he was losing on opponents.
So, he was tied yeah, you wanna put it more you just wanna put it on your gameplay. You wanna be like, "I'm gonna play well, and that's what I want to be the difference maker, not relying on my opponents winning more rounds than my opponents or whatever." Yeah. So even if you lose in that situation, it could feel bad, but, like, I mean, that's what you wanna put your success on and your failures on is just your play as much as possible. Like, that should be the difference maker, or you want that to be the difference maker, I guess. I don't know.
And our final prediction, we kind of got bodied on this one, Azul.
What was it?
It was how many counter catcher would there be in top eight?
Oof.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
I said 10. You said 9. The answer
Well,
was,
Grant got us a 3.
yeah, and Ian played 2. The answer was 5.
Alright. I mean, Chi and Pao just all cut it, and then they did pretty well this tournament. I mean, what are you gonna do, you know? Um,
We got farmed, buddy. Well,
Too much Pao, man, too much Pao.
there is the Stockholm regionals this weekend. Um I know you're
I think the meta
going,
will be about the
right?
same.
A lot you're going,
Yeah.
a lot of Americans are going. It's gonna be overall a pretty small tournament. I think there is still registration space, and I think the cap was
Yeah,
like
I think so.
800, so, it's not gonna be super big, but it is a
Nope.
regionals. So first place still gets 10K, that's pretty sweet.
It's
Um,
currently at 937, so it's probably closing in on capped, but we're not there yet.
sure. Um, I guess one question for anyone going to Stockholm, like, you're going to Stockholm, right? How are you and your testing group approaching the success of Dialga when it comes to decision making for deck build, for deck selection?
A little bit, it'll be more popular for sure moving forward. It'll probably, like, double in popularity from where we are to Stockholm for sure. That's not a whole ton, but it'll probably, like, triple, quadruple going into, like, LA, so it'll be more popular, it'll be more successful on average. It might not win, of course. So it's definitely a deck, like, you wanna look out for it. I think it's, like, a deck and also, like, if it is that good in the meta as it seems like it might be, especially based on what, like, speaking of, like, of what like, the best player who is playing the deck right now, Hedrick, I think he's definitely, like, the best player who's playing the deck. It's not really a question of that. If it's as good as he thinks it is, then there's definitely, like, okay, this deck is, like, real for sure. So, even if it's not, like, super, super popular, like, if it's, like, a 7% deck, maybe 6, the expected success of the deck would probably be pretty high. So, it's definitely a deck worth, like, not worrying about, but, like, you want it to be on your list of decks where it's like, "Alright, I wanna be able to contest against Charizard, Chien-Pao." Dialga probably makes the list now for sure, even though it just, like, just had its moment.
If you're someone who wants to play the best deck in the format going into a tournament, are you for Stockholm going to play Charizard or are you going to play Chimpao after seeing its success this weekend?
I'd probably still just say Charizard because, like, I mean, it's, like, even and maybe, like, there's so many you can just, like, tech Charizard for every match. So, like, a Charizard, you could just, like, play the maximum belt and the Eerie for the Chi and Pao matchup. But if people adjust their deck choice and techs around Chi and Pao, you're just kinda screwed if you roll up with Chi and Pao, right? Or more screwed. You could still be fine and still make top 8. You can still win the tournament with Chi and Pao for sure, even if people adjust around it, but it's gonna be tougher. Where it's like, it doesn't ever get tougher for Charizard because we're, like, at almost maximum toughness for Charizard, right? Because everyone is accounting for it and teching for it, like yeah, so I don't think I would if I'm picking between Chi and Pao and Charizard, I think I'd just go with Charizard.
All right. Well,
We're at maximum
I
difficulty.
guess the only other thing would be, after your group did well with control, does that open up the door for like control to be more played in this format? Do you think like it should be more played than it is?
I don't know about more played. It's just one of those decks that's not gonna be super played. It's still good.
Yeah.
Dialga matchup's tough, but like I said, all out Blitzel already found a solution. Shout out to Blitzel, and The Chi matchup is also kind of tough as well. And then a lot of the fringe matchup, like the Arctina is tough, the Lugia is tough. So I don't think it needs to be it shouldn't be more played than it is, but it definitely is a good deck. And if you're one of the people who's kind of like really loves playing control decks and you're on the fence about it, and you're not like what do I even want to say? Like you're just kind of like, I just want to play a deck and have fun with it, but I don't want to like show up with control and just get bodied. Control's in a good enough spot where like if it's your style of deck, then rolling up with it would be reasonable for sure. But it's not like it like head and shoulders above everything else. It's just like super hard to play. That's why it doesn't have success. The deck is just like a good deck.
All right, well, let's do some predictions for Stockholm this weekend. Let's keep with the theme of what we've been doing in this format. Azul, how many Charizard are there going to be in top 32?
This is a tough one now because like definitely I feel like this comes up now and then where like decks will have their rebound. Like I feel like Charizard underperformed this tournament, even despite like what was being chose to be played at the tournament, especially by specifically top players. I think it did definitely underperformed for how popular it was, like 25%, and then only 3 in top 32. That feels a little weak. So it definitely needs to be a little bit higher than that. I'm gonna go with 6. Be a
My
little bit
number
more
was
conservative this time
7.
around.
I
I'm going
was
with
thinking in
6.
my head,
All right, all right.
right there next to each other.
All right, well, it did just win, but we'll be able to repeat the success, and how much success we'll be able to repeat. How many Dialga in top 8, Chip?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dialga is definitely good, but it's a pretty quick little turnaround. It's not going to be that big of a tournament as well. There's a chance it's only uh 14 rounds, right? Not 15 rounds.
Yeah, no, I think it's a guaranteed. Oh,
No,
no, I
it's
guess I mean,
799 is
wasn't
the
the cap
number,
800? Oh, okay, yeah, it's like guaranteed it won't be. It's gonna
right?
guarantee be 5 rounds, yeah.
Unless they added some space for some reason.
I don't think so.
But yeah, I don't know how much that does or doesn't play into the factor of it, I guess. I'm gonna go with 1. I think 1 still gets in there. Um, I don't think Hedrick's going to
Yeah,
Stockholm, but, I think 1 player will sneak in there, maybe with something very similar to his list.
yeah, I think I'm also gonna go with 1. Yeah, I think 1 I think 1's a good for how much there's gonna be, but how
Yep.
powerful of a deck we can kind of analyze it being. Yeah, 1 well, I'm going with 1 as well.
And
I
this is
think
pretty
actually, like, a big thing for the deck I was gonna mention, I think there's been a bunch of different ways that people have played it, the Jack build, the Arvin builds,
yeah,
but now I think it's kinda becoming standardized. We've figured out the best way to play Dialga or like, maybe it's not actually the best, but the way that people will be playing it moving forward, so it's, like, less of sometimes, like, decks are in, like, a testing phase as you're playing it in the tournament, but now Dialga's kind of been figured out a little bit more for the general player base to kinda work off of as well. I mentioned
sure.
that as well. Things are gonna
Yep,
become more standardized for it moving forward.
definitely. And then our last prediction, you know, this event is in Europe, but there's going to be people from all over coming to play in it. Also, Europe has tons of countries within itself, right? So our question here is, what country will the winner be from?
That's a good question. I mean, I do plan on showing up, so I'm gonna go with America, USA, baby.
I
That's a
knew this is where this answer
dub.
was going to go for you.
What about you,
I'm
Chip? Are you gonna go with a European country? And then at that point, which one do you even go with?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Netherlands.
Okay,
And the reason for that is because
I
I'm
kind of
assuming
guess.
the Cameron brothers are going to be there, and Owen's
That's
been
what I
on
was
a
gonna say. Is
tear.
that where I didn't know that's where they were from, but I was gonna say, are the Cameramen from the Netherlands? Um,
Yeah,
Yo,
I'm going
Brendan's got
with,
to get the dub at this point, right? Like we're
and
waiting
that
for
was
Brendan to get a dub
that's
now.
that's what my prediction was going to be as well. Because if you see our, the stream graphic that they put up there with all the regional champions on it, the bottom graphic has 4 tournaments on it, and 2 of them are already occupied by Owen. It's the same picture right next to each other. It's pretty hilarious. But then the next 2 are just blanked out, waiting for the next champion. So my prediction is that Brennan Cameraman wins in Stockholm, and then also gets the win in that last event of the season as well. So it's Cameraman. That's the prediction right there.
That would be a crazy that's a crazy timeline there, Chip. We'll see if Brennan's up to it. I'm gonna do my best to
I believe
prevent
Brennan.
it this weekend. But that would also be a pretty sick storyline if it did happen. So if I don't get the dub, I wouldn't be mad for that to be the outcome, to be honest. But I think that's gonna do it for us this week, Chip. It was a fun podcast. I'm a little tired, trying to keep up the best I can. But why don't you go ahead and close us out?
Yeah, thanks so much to everyone for listening and for the support. As always, if you do want to show that little bit of extra support, the best way to do it is to leave us a like, a rating, a review, comment, subscribe, all those good, classic content creator things that people say. Yeah, helps us out a ton, helps more people discover us, and shows your support for what we're doing over here. And if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, the best place to do that is over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG. And you can also follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah, I somehow lost you there for a bit, Chip. But it sounds like I came back just in time to say thanks for the support as always. Good luck to everyone in Sweden this weekend. There's no other major tournaments going on this weekend. We didn't miss any, right? I don't think so. I think we
I
got
don't
them
think
all.
so.
Just
There are
Stockholm.
a
Then we'll catch y'all
bunch
next
of Latin
Wednesday.
America special events coming up.
There are. Yeah, there are. Yeah, catch everyone next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Eastern. See you.